And ladies and gentlemen, while the Prime Minister's stressing on infrastructure, while the Prime Minister's talking about strengthening the army, today on Times Now, we want to tell you that is the bridge that has been made in Galwan Valley. It's a 60-meter bridge made and completed today, Thursday, 19th, in fact, yesterday, Thursday, 18th of June, it was completed. And this bridge is the bridge that China doesn't want India to make. Our braves, our formation engineers, our border research organization, our army men worked day and night to complete this bridge to give India a vantage point where it can look at a 255-kilometer stretch of a road right up to the line of actual control, so that nobody can come in, erect a post and intrude into what is India's territory, is our motherland. So all those people, well, including Mr. Rahul Gandhi, including Mr. Zakir Hussain, his own councillor in Kargil. Kargil has memories for this country. And Zakir Hussain in his own party actually did nothing short of selling India. This bridge tells you how army, the government is working to strengthening India, and I want to play out for you. I want to play out Zakir Hussain for you, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the party that asks the most questions of the government. This is what a congressman said. Councillor in Kargil.
चाइना वालों ने सारा ब्लैक बेल्ट लेके लाके इनकी धज्जियां उड़ा के रख दिया. इन्होंने गोली चलाई ही नहीं. इनके चाइना के वो ब्लैक बेल्ट, वो कमांडोज वगैरह आ गया, धज्जियां उड़ा के चला गया.
अच्छा, ये गलवान कितना बड़ा एरिया है? ये गलवान एरिया
ये बहुत बड़ा एरिया है यार. 135 किलोमीटर ये अंदर आ चुका है. तो अब अंदाजा लगा क्या ये मारेगा? अगर
ये चाइनीज फौज 135 किलोमीटर अंदर आ गया हमारा एरिया में.
हाँ, अगर इनमें ताकत होता तो वो पहले मारने से पहले उनको 135 किलोमीटर आने नहीं देता. उन्होंने मार के 135 किलोमीटर इस तरफ इनको भगाया है यार. तब ये चाइनीज और चाइना वाले 135 किलोमीटर अंदर पहुंचा है.
कसम से
हालत बुरा है.
अच्छा,
हाँ, वरना वो मोदी कितना चिल्लाता था सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक.
अब कितने फौजी मर गए वहाँ?
देखो निसार, ये एग्जैक्ट फिगर दे नहीं रहा है, लेकिन मरा बहुत है.
बहुत ज्यादा
मरा है. अभी तक ये 20 बोलते हैं, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कम से कम 200-250 लोग इनके मर चुके हैं.
अच्छा, उनका कोई मरा नहीं है वैसे? मत
उनका भी मैंने सुना है कुछ जख्मी हुआ है, मरा नहीं है. ओ यार, अगर पेंगोंग लेक ले लिया ना तो फिर हिंदुस्तान के पास बचता क्या है? फिर ले और करगिल करना क्या है हिंदुस्तान को?
ओ यार, तो एक काम कर, पैसा कुछ जमा रखा है, तू इधर आजा, मैं तेरे को मकान दिलाऊंगा.
कुछ होने वाला नहीं है, सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा. सिर्फ बस ये ले का आधा हिस्सा जो है चाइना लेना चाहिए बस. फिर पता क्या होगा? फिर दिल्ली में मोदी की माँ बहन लद्दाख यूटी के 1000 टुकड़े हो जाएंगे फिर.
You heard that, ladies and gentlemen. The Prime Minister draws the line while a Congress councillor and of course many greats in the Congress party continue to question, even say China ले जाएगा लद्दाख, लद्दाख के 1000 टुकड़े होंगे तब मोदी को पता चलेगा. So ladies and gentlemen, the legitimate question on the news are tonight. Will Congress accept the Prime Minister's India is one message? That's the question and the debate on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And let us get a first inside view of the Prime Minister's all-party meeting. Joining me tonight is Pinaki Misra, Member of Parliament of the Lok Sabha from the Biju Janata Dal. And Pinaki Misra, we heard the Prime Minister just minutes ago. I want to ask you, what was the mood in the all-party meeting? All the questions, rather tough questions that have been asked outside, were they carried on inside the all-party meeting? How were the parties stacked up? Did they support the Prime Minister or did they find fault with him?
No, I think in fairness, all political parties today were in sync with the government and the armed forces. Let's face it, that was the leitmotif of the entire evening. For 3.5 hours, everybody spoke obviously in favor of the armed forces because, that's unexceptionable. The most brilliant, valiant, daring forces on this planet. And as far as, the government is concerned, the government is best positioned to take whatever decision it takes politically, economically, militarily. Because it's got the best, the advantage of all the possible feedback from all quarters. So there were 1 or 2 questions asked. I'm not going to say who asked what, but of course you know that, Navika, I'm sure you always have the inside information. So 1 or 2 questions were asked. The most significant thing that the RM, the Raksha Mantri, said, and this is a departure now, and a welcome departure, may I say, from Kargil. There was no military intelligence failure, no IB failure, no raw failure in this regard. So there was no intelligence failure. That's a very good situation we are in. What happened was a plain good old-fashioned stab in the back. I mean, let's face it, that's about it. In the cover of darkness, with ultimate treachery, and when our people went in peace, to have reacted as savagely and viciously as they have, everybody obviously wants the government to ask that tough question to the other side. That, look, why did you do this to our people? What is the provocation? Because our people went in peace. Our people only went to inquire as to when a particular resolution was going to be given effect to. So that was, by and large, let me tell you, it was a completely bipartisan meeting. There was no murmurs of any kind of rancor, any kind of, dissident notes. Everybody has backed the armed forces and the government. And we speak in one voice, we spoke in one voice, we will continue to speak in one voice. And the Prime Minister appreciated it. And he said that this is a morale booster for the armed forces, this is a morale booster for the people of India, and more importantly, it's a great morale booster for the international community, which always feels that India's rather rancorous democracy will always have dissonant voices and tones, and that perhaps some advantage can be taken of those little, the little frisson, as the French call it.
Pinaki Misra, I know you're floating a little high because, this whole conversation of how valiant our forces are tends to make any Indian high, on the adrenaline, because those stories of valor actually move us all, encourage us all. But Pinaki Misra, are you being realistic when you say the whole political spectrum was standing behind the Prime Minister? Because there are 6 questions that the Congress president has released right after the meeting. There are tweets that you would have read from Mr. Rahul Gandhi, which have asked the Prime Minister that the Chinese attack in Galwan was pre-planned, the government of India was fast asleep and denied the problem, and the price was paid by our martyred Jawans. This is the position, and this is more or less the statement that was made by Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, who said we are being kept in the dark. Why was this meeting not held earlier? And so many questions, 6 questions of ours have not been answered. Does that make her firmly behind the government?
No, I never said that she was firmly behind the government. All she said was she was firmly behind the armed forces. In fairness, many of us said, the Biju Janata Dal, for instance, said that we are firmly behind both the armed forces and the government. And some said they're only behind the armed forces. That's their position. Net, I think what Mrs. Gandhi wanted to ask was a chronology of events. And I think the Raksha Mantri in the end said, look, I don't need to answer this again because the External Affairs Minister gave a very detailed, literally blow by blow, day by day, week by week account of what transpired prior to the fateful 15th, afternoon bit of treachery. So therefore, the full facts were put out by the External Affairs Minister in a very detailed slideshow, along with a very, very, detailed commentary, as it were, on the slideshow and on what transpired prior to the 15th. And therefore, my impression is that most of the political parties found that to be fairly satisfactory. Any further questions? There will be questions, I have no doubt. Our party stand was this is not a time for postmortems or questions. This is a time really for the nation to stand as one behind the armed
Pinaki
forces
Misra,
and the
in the
government.
presentation that was given both by the External Affairs Minister as well as the Raksha Mantri, I want to ask you, were there any images, satellite images that were shared? Did they say, because the Prime Minister's statement is unequivocal. It says no inch of Indian land has been occupied, and he says no Indian post has been conquered. And we've heard detractors come out and make all sorts of claims that Chinese andar ghus gaye hain, they have virtually put their tents, tambu gaad liye hain, andar aa gaye hain, we have lost land, and 60 kilometers stretch has been given away to China. Any details that were presented in this meeting on all of those questions?
Navika, I'm really sorry. Plenty of details were given, but it's not possible for me to diverge them because the Raksha Mantri clearly said this is privileged communication and he would appreciate it that this doesn't go out. So therefore, that's not possible for me to divulge. But, the Prime Minister's statement is always the Prime Minister's statement. And therefore, I don't think I should comment on this any further.
But did you come out? I'm not asking you to take political sides. I'm asking you, the Prime Minister said not 1 inch of our land has been taken by them. I want to ask you, are you convinced with the detailed presentation and this sentence of the Prime Minister? Because questions have been raised.
Please understand, this is a line of control. This is, a position which is so very, very flexible, and the government is in the best position to get what is obtaining on the ground level at any given point in time. It's impossible for you and I or any of us outside to unnecessarily second guess, keep speculating, and keep engaging in this, evening sort of conversation and dialogue on, a popular channel like yours. But I don't think it's fair because I think the government is in the best position. This got the vantage position of knowing what obtains on the ground. It's got the best intelligence, images. It's got the satellite images. It's getting feedback on a literally minute by minute basis on a very, very sensitive issue. So therefore, once the Prime Minister speaks on this issue, then, let's see how the movement forward is going forward over the next. These are not things which are decided within hours and days and weeks. This is a long term. It's a festering problem for the last 70 years. This is not a problem that arose yesterday. It's a problem which is a problem from at least 60 years, 1962, right, or 1960, 61, when the problem first festered, which is now a clear 60 years. So therefore, we need to move forward very cautiously. The good thing is, I think all political parties said that the Prime Minister and the government and the armed forces will be 100% trusted by us in the given factoid of the conspectus of facts, as it were. All the circumstances, they will distill best the information that comes back to them. And whatever decision is taken militarily, taken politically, taken diplomatically, taken, economically. All of us have pledged to back the Prime Minister literally. Nobody said that, listen, I'm sorry, we are not one. Please come back to us with further, answers, and then we will ask you further questions, then come back with. This is not the time for dialogue and debate. This is a time for firm action. And the country, I think, has to be one behind the government and the Prime Minister.
I want to ask you, have you left the meeting convinced that India is safe? And the questions that have been raised about that specifically Finger 4 area and the fact that the Chinese have breached some understanding of the line of actual control?
Navika, India is always going to be safe now in the hands of our armed forces. That's a fact of life. Other countries better come, to terms with that fact of life. There is no doubt about it. And that's the one thing that the government pointed out, that they've actually augmented a lot of the, infrastructure development that was vastly and sorely needed in those absolutely inhospitable heights, which is very hard to work on. Government has virtually doubled the bridge length, that's what we were told, and the road length also has gone up by almost, I think, 35 to 40%. So that's what we need. That's where the Chinese were ahead of us. The government is, I think the India is now catching up on that, which is, I think, clearly what has irked the Chinese. For the first time, they're seeing an augmentation of infrastructure that could soon catch up with them. And that was their big advantage, that they had this wonderful mobility where they could, suddenly bring in 100,000 troops over a period of a week, 10 days, because they had these wonderful highways. I've myself gone to Nathula Pass, and I've seen, across the border, the kind of infrastructure the Chinese have managed to build there, while on our side, the infrastructure hasn't been so good. So I think what the government today emphasized on was that infrastructure now is going to be top priority, and indeed has to be. The only way we can, because our army now, our armed strength in terms of just the army, navy and air force, in terms of personnel, as well as armaments. Conventional warfare, I don't think, we're not even bothering about nuclear warfare, because that's a rubbish deterrent kind of. Yeah, it's a far cry. So, but conventional warfare, I think today we are at par with the Chinese, perhaps much better equipped, because ours is a massively trained professional, army, which is completely oiled and ready. And there can be at times a bit of a ragtag force of, conscripted people. So therefore, I think our army, there's no question, we have vast superiority. Yes, they have a defense budget, which is one.
Pinaki Misra, hold your thoughts. I know you were in Parliament then. I want to play out for you a statement made by the former Defense Minister in 2013. This was Mr. A.K. Antony, senior leader of the Congress Party and Defense Minister in the UPA government. I want to play out that soundbite, and I want to come back to you.
To admit the truth, I have no hesitation. Compared to India, in the area of building infrastructure, China is much advanced. Their infrastructure development is superior to India. We are only catching up. That is also history. Why? Independent India, many years as a policy on border, best defense is not to develop the border. Undeveloped border is more safe than developed border. So many years there was no construction of roads, airfields, nothing in the border areas. By that time, China continued to develop their infrastructure in the border areas.
This was 2013, where A.K. Antony told the country that the policy in India had been that an undeveloped border is safer than a developed border. So therefore, no roads were constructed, no airfields, no nothing. I want to ask you, Mr. Pinaki Misra, How does that situation in 2013, 1 year before the general elections which saw the change in the political leadership, between then and now, in your experience, have we paid enough attention to infrastructure development as well as intelligence gathering?
Look, what you played out was a damning self-confession, honestly. It was damning. This was one of the, armed forces people have told me, one of the most abysmal, one of the most, disastrous periods as far as the armed forces were concerned. They were in despair because there was no decision making that was happening in that entire phase. And I'm sorry to say, I don't want to, damn individuals, but that's a fact. You can ask anybody in the annals of, our defense ministry or our defense forces, and they'll tell you there was complete paralysis. That's a fact. Now, number two, I've been on the Defense Consultative Committee thereafter between 14 and 19. And searching questions have been asked. We know all this. We've despaired on, this damning confessional that was given on the floor of the House. There is no question that there is a massive amount of attention that has been paid to getting infrastructure in place. And this is the result. The reason China has woken up after 60 years is not because, they feel this COVID happened and India is economically a little weak and, we are all feeling a little timid. No, none of that. It's because of this very aggressive infrastructure development that we've been pursuing, and it's come now too close to comfort for them. So therefore, that's the reason they needed to have this sort of a flashpoint to show that, look, we are not going to be now pushed back from where we have managed to, they do that salami tactics or the crawling, the creeping tactics where they've managed to inch forward, literally inch by inch by inch. Therefore, the government has done something right, which is why this has happened as a Chinese response. Now what the government does going forward is something where the government and the armed forces need our full strength. And I think we are going to be behind the government.
Well, thank you very much, Pinaki Misra. You've really hit the nail on the head. You've given us an insider's view of the all-party meeting. I thank you for joining me. And let me get in our other guests this evening. And the only question is this. Who was strengthening India and who was virtually making India weak? And joining me tonight, Abdul Razak Khan, political analyst, Manasvi Thapar, lawyer, MC Abbas, political analyst, Shehzad Poonawala, lawyer, Gaurav Bhatia, national spokesperson of the BJP, and Colonel Rohit Dev, defense analyst. But my first question goes to Abdul Razak Khan. Abdul Razak Khan, आपकी जेब में कितने क्वेश्चंस हैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर के लिए? 7, 8, 10, क्योंकि 6 तो सोनिया गांधी जी ने पूछ लिए हैं।
बहुत सारे हैं नाविका, अभी भी
हैं। ठीक है, आप अपनी राशन की लिस्ट निकालिए, लेकिन your game has been given away, Mr. Abdul Razak Khan, by AK Antony in 2013. Do you still have something to say?
Questioning the government shouldn't be stopped. The reason being, that is the principal job of the principal opposition party in this country.
And when you were in government, your principal job was not to build infrastructure. Was that your principal job? Because that's what the then defense minister said.
Let me tell you of this Galwan Wali episode itself. 10 of our soldiers were abducted by the Chinese, which were later released. Did the government make this nation know that this is what is happening at the border? First point, no. First, earlier the government said that there were only 3 casualties, but later we learned it is 20 casualties. All that the opposition is asking us, make us know what exactly is happening at the border. Now, when you come up to Pulwama attack, the next day itself the Prime Minister made a statement. We raised import custom duties by 200%. Nitin Gadkari ji said we are going to stop Indus River water to Pakistan. We are going to divert the rivers. We are going to stop the rivers. What and all did those, the statements were made that time. What action did this government take now? 5th May is when we confronted China at the border.
Why don't you explain to Mr. Abdul Razak Khan, Mr. Abdul Razak Khan, and
Navika, this
all
was
the
considered
opposition
the
to
most
Modi
peaceful
brigade
border.
who
Not
questioned
a
the
single
Pulwama
soldier
attack,
has
the
lost life.
surgical attack, the Balakot strike, today want to know. They want to know about the Galwan Valley. They want to know whether 10 soldiers were abducted. They will not trust. They will not trust the Prime Minister even after AK Antony ने इनकी पोल खोल दी.
Navika, now I hope Abdul Razak will hear me out and not interrupt as is his usual tactic. See, first of all, they never believed surgical strike when army said it was done. They never believed Balakot airstrike, but they believed when Imran Khan said कि Balakot में खौफनाक हुआ. So here is a statement of the Chinese foreign spokesperson. He himself has said about 7 hours ago, you can zoom it, that he himself has said that we have not detained any Indian personnel. So I think the Chinese statement should at least put some comfort for Abdul Razak Khan, because he may believe Global Times and China more. But anyways, today what was the message? The message by Mr. Modi was clear and stout that not an inch has been invaded by China. Indian Sena kept them out. But one wonders why CKMKB, मतलब कांग्रेस की माँ का बेटा, अभी भी करता है सेना पर डाउट. क्यों वो बार बार 50वें बर्थडे पर भी हो रहा है रन आउट? वो करता नहीं है सलमान सोज, आकार पटेल, जाकिर हुसैन पर कोई भी शाउट, और ना वो करता है 50 साल का बेटा, ना करता है सीसीपी के साथ अपने सीक्रेट डील को. आई वांट टू नो टुडे फ्रॉम मिस्टर अब्दुल रज़ाक खान, स्टॉप शाउटिंग.
You keep your sharis to yourself.
ये मुशायरा नहीं है, ये आपकी पोल खोल है. ये पोल खोल है. ये पोल खोल है. See, पूरा देश, एक सेकंड, Abdul Razak Khan, I did not shout. I don't want to behave like a hooligan. You have already, Mr. Abdul Razak Khan, please stand with India, not with China. Please, now let me complete. Mr. Abdul Razak Khan, I did not interrupt you. Now let me complete. Thank you. Let me complete, Mr. Abdul Razak Khan. I did not interrupt you.
The closing statement
Entire
of Sonia
country
Gandhi was that we are with the armed
Mr.
forces.
Abdul Razak Khan, Mr. Xi Jinping, let me complete.
You know, अगर आपके पास इतना कुछ कहने के लिए और करने के लिए था, तो 2004 से 2014 तक किया क्यों नहीं? आज जो खड़े होके यहाँ पे आप छाती पीट रहे हैं, तब क्यों नहीं किया ये सब? AK एंटनी 2013 में कह रहे हैं, मनस्वी थापड़. In 2013, AK एंटनी makes a confession that shames India. Today, you are the people who want to ask questions to Prime Minister Modi about whether he had given enough intelligence and enough arms to the army to go and fight at the border?
Navika ji, give me 45 uninterrupted seconds. Thank you for your question. You came to 2013. I'll read about 2013. India is going through a troubled situation. China introduced our borders. Pakistan kills our soldiers time and again, but center doesn't act. This is a tweet of August 11, 2013. I'll read another tweet of 6 August 2013. From China's intrusion to Pakistan's ambushes, UPA government has been absolutely lax in securing Indian borders. When will center wake up? These are the tweets of then Chief Minister of Gujarat and now the Prime Minister of India. So since when asking questions to your own elected government became a crime? Since when did it become anti-national? The same Chief Minister who's now the Prime Minister asked some relevant questions, and that was very patriotic. Gaurav ji, please let me complete. There is a difference between being political and being patriotic. We all are patriotic, and when we ask some politically difficult questions, you say that these patriotic people are anti-patriotic, anti-national. That is not the case.
Well, if you were patriotic, Gaurav Bhatia, I want to ask you, if you were patriotic, would you be going around in 2008 signing agreements with the Communist Party of China and saying that we will share top-level information with you? Is that the reason why Mr. Rahul Gandhi was meeting the Chinese ambassador when the Doklam standoff was happening? Is that the reason why they did not build bridges and infrastructure when they should have? Is that the reason why Mr. AK Antony stood in parliament and told this country and our army men and brought down their morale completely by saying कि border में कुछ करना ही नहीं चाहिए, उससे border protected रहते? Is that what he was trying to tell the country?
Yes. Navika, first of all, two significant messages have gone out, and what are those messages? Like an Indian, I want to thank the opposition parties, most of it, barring the Congress and the Communists, that have their own compulsions not to unite, but to show the spirit of oneness that Narendra Modi has been talking about. And this is what will really scare China, that India is united. Second is the strong message given by Narendra Modi ji, What is the message? Every inch and square kilometers, 38,000 square kilometers of Indian territory was lost earlier. But Narendra Modi ji made it very clear to the nation, every inch of our land is protected and we will give our life for that. Second, he said the Indian army has been given. This is again a very strong message. As you rightly said, can we trust the Congress that signed a private agreement with the CPC with sensitive information? And this is the same Congress that has been known to be leaking sensitive information to our inimical nations. Augusta Westland, you remember the violation of Official Secret Act? I still remember. Third, we are also very happy to know that the bridge that you were showing in the Balwan Valley is being proceeded with. It has been completed. What does it show? That the resolve is firm and our strength is visible. And India will scare China, will teach a lesson to China, will not back down like it earlier used to. One more thing about A.K. Antony. 45 years of rule before 2004 and 9 years of rule from 2004 to 2030. A candid, embarrassing admission by A.K. Antony that they could not provide sufficient infrastructure to a brave Indian army. And today, my last point, just 30 seconds more, many parties, most of them said we stand with the government because government...
That's right. From Uddhav Thackeray to Sharad Pawar to Mamata Banerjee to Mayawati to Jagan Reddy to KCR, every single party, to Samajwadi Party, every single party stood with the government, stood with the Prime Minister. Colonel Rohit Dev, I want to ask you, does the Jawan at the border feel more empowered today? Or did he feel more empowered in 2013 when his defense minister was making the statement that A.K. Antony made?
The Jawan of the day feels absolutely empowered by what he has at his disposal to serve the motherland. The national interest and power is born out of every citizen of the country. And I must say, Navika, that it includes the media, it includes me, it includes the soldier, it includes the industrialists, it also includes the politicians. And I'm quite appalled at the series of happenings I'm seeing for the last 3 days at least, that the political vulturism is trying to prey on the sacrifice of our soldiers and the pride of our nation. People should not expect commentary on a ball-to-ball basis from the line of actual control or the LC. It takes time to percolate and disseminate the information to the correct people to take decision. It is not a matter of a coffee table debate happening on every household. So the government has to act maturely, and so has the opposition supposed to act maturely. By exposing yourselves to get into slugfest, and there was one Zakir Hussain clip you showed earlier in your show, that man should be picked up by the National Investigation Agency and he should be taken for interrogation.
But not,
more so,
you know, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, MC Abbas, who tweets at the drop of a hat, questions the Prime Minister every single morning, has not tweeted one word on Zakir Hussain, a congressman from Kargil, councillor, this is what he says, and Salman Soz, and there is Hussain Dalwai. All of these people question the Indian army, they question the government, they question the patriotism of the Jawans in this country. MC Abbas?
Navika ji, I've been quiet for the last 40 odd minutes. Kindly allow me a minute's time. Firstly, today at the all-party meeting, it is very, very clear that every political party here in India stands behind the armed forces. You mentioned about Rahul Gandhi not tweeting.
Not the Communist Party of India, Marxist.
Zakir Hussain.
Because they will not condemn China.
I'm completing my point. Yes, I'm completing my point. First and foremost, one of the panelists debated today with verses and poetry. I'd like to answer on the same way. Out, shout, run out. चाइनीज आक्रमण से छूट गया पसीना, कहां गया 56 इंच का सीना। सोनिया गांधी ने पूछा सवाल, क्यों हुए मोदी जी बेहाल, ऐसा ही बीत गया महीना, क्या हुआ 56 इंच का सीना। पाकिस्तान के बाद में सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक।
शहजाद पूनावाला, आई वांट टू गेट इन शहजाद पूनावाला। जब इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाना था तो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं बनाया, जब गवर्नेंस करनी थी तो गवर्नेंस नहीं की, चोरी चकारी, banks behal, scam a minute happening in this country. And today, these are the people who are questioning the Prime Minister? They are questioning the armed forces.
नाविका, मैं इन सारे सवालों के लिए सिर्फ इतना पूछूंगा कि आदरणीय राहुल गांधी को ये पूछिए कि जब 62 में नेहरू ने दे दिया 38,000 किलोमीटर, जब 63 में 5,500 किलोमीटर दे दिया लद्दाख का, तब क्यों नहीं पूछा राहुल गांधी ने अपने परिवार से? जब 2010 से 13 के बीच में 650 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर 600 बार इंकर्जन हुआ, जब 2008 में सीक्रेट डील साइन हुई, क्या उसकी वजह से चुप बैठे? क्या उसी की वजह से सेंट एंटनी ने कोई इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं बनने दिया? क्या यह सवाल आपने पूछा है? राहुल गांधी ने पूछे? क्या राहुल गांधी ने पूछा कि क्यों ऐसा करार साइन किया कि हमारे सेना के जो लोग हैं वहां पर शस्त्र तो लेकर जा सकते हैं पर शस्त्र चला नहीं सकते? क्या आपने पूछा? और आज मैं आपसे पूछता हूं कि आज मोदी ने 1 इंच नहीं दी और जिन्होंने लाखों किलोमीटर दे दिया, आज वो सवाल पूछते तो इसका भी सवाल का जवाब दे कि पूरा देश बोल रहा है सीकेएम के भी चाइना के माल का करो बहिष्कार, पर कांग्रेस बोल रही है चाइना के एमओयू की
Well, I'm running out of time. The Prime Minister has drawn a line. The Prime Minister has assured this country that not 1 inch of Indian land has been given to anybody because our Jawans are standing at the borders, protecting our borders so that Mr. Rahul Gandhi and every other opposition leader, every citizen of India can sleep calmly at home. This is the same army that Mr. Rahul Gandhi questioned. Did they have intelligence? Did they send our soldiers without any arms? Well, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, why don't you check the history of the Congress party, which signed agreements in 1993, 1996, 2005, 2013, and also 2008, another agreement with the Communist Party of China. And Nehru ji very nicely had once said, लद्दाख मेरे सर की तरह गंजा है, एक घास नहीं उगती वहां, लद्दाख लेके क्या करोगे? आज जाकिर हुसैन, काउंसलर ऑफ कारगिल, कांग्रेस का नेता, सेज द सेम थिंग. लद्दाख के हजारों टुकड़े हो जाएंगे और बाकी का कश्मीर पाकिस्तान को दे देंगे. दिस कंट्री, दिस मदरलैंड belongs to every Indian. It is not for the Congress to give it away to people who they think deserve it, because this country is guarded by our Jawans who are so brave that not 1 inch of the motherland will ever be given to anybody. Well, think about it. Think about who is patriotic, who's asking the questions, and in life there is one principle. There's always a time for questioning, and questioning should always be done at the right time. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Newshour Agenda up next.